Good morning and welcome to America's Web Radio. And it's my pleasure as the CEO, as always, I do the same thing, and that's introduce a new show. And it's my pleasure to introduce a new show that will be hosted by none other than our Taylor Bird, that is also our director of social media and sales. So she came up with the idea that she wanted to do a show for women, and the show is Women's Wednesdays, and it's going to be a very good show, and I think something that women will want to tune into from all over the country, and it'll literally have many different topics, and I guess it would be I would be missing if I didn't say it was somewhat shattering the glass ceiling in some cases, but in other cases, just the fact that women do very interesting things. Everybody stereotypes women into, oh, well, they got to be secretaries, or they got to be this, or they got to be that. Well, no, they're doing many, many interesting things. So with that being said, I'm going to turn the show over to Taylor and introduce you. You can see her on YouTube. You can see her on Facebook. And here's Taylor.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the glorifying intro, David. Everybody, my name is Taylor Bird. I am the Media Relations and Sales Manager here at America's Web Radio, and super excited to be here. Wanted to do something new and introduce Women's Wednesdays. So this is going to be all things women, whatever that may be. So our special guest today is Rebecca Elliott. We do have her on air now, and she is in fire EMS. It's been for the last, I'd say, 11 years now. And I am lucky enough to call this badass woman my mother. So, hey, Mom, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day.
Yes.
So was just wanting to hear more about your story. So I will go ahead and just give you the go-ahead to talk about your experience and how you got into this.
Okay. Well, I worked for an OBGYN for about 10 years, and during that time I learned a lot of things, as you know, but I needed more. And it wasn't until a friend of my dad that, said, hey, have you ever considered doing fire? And I said, I love doing fire, but, I think I'm too old. And he's like, oh, my goodness, you're never too old. So I signed up for Fire Academy in my 30s, mid-30s, I should say, and decided to do a career change. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So it's just been, started Fire Academy, and I was actually the first female to ever receive the Scholastic Award through LCC's Fire Academy, the 50th, hoorah, and graduated top of my class in the Fire Academy, being the second oldest person in the academy. Went off to get my EMT through Atlanta Community College after that, and then off to get my paramedic. So here I am. So I was boots on the ground for about 10 years and obtained a full-time position here at Delhi Fire. I was here part-time for a really long time, part-time paid on call because we're a combination department, and decided to apply for the emergency management, recruitment, and retention, and here I am, starting a new career.
I'm going to just interject a little bit. And many, many years ago when I was in school, I was an EMT, and I must say it was the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my life. I thought being a disc jockey at 15 wasn't bad, but at the same token, after that, I went the other route and went as an EMT. And, there was one thing that I always remember, and will always remember, as a matter of fact, is that when you've got somebody on the gurney or whatever, and you're in the back of the ambulance doing what you can do. And when I was an EMT, there was limited things that we can do. It's not like it is today. But and most of the time we didn't have the large ambulances like they have today that carry everything but the operating light. But we did what we could with what we had to, and most of it was oxygen and a kidney pan, and you know what that's used for. And but the thing was that you'd pick somebody up, and the look in their eye, and they knew that I wasn't a doctor, nor was I trying to play doctor, but the look in their eye of just get me to the hospital. And then once we pulled into the hospital and we were unloading, the look in their eye of thank you. And it's a look that no words ever had to be said. It was just a look on their face, And I'm sure you've experienced it thousands of times.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've been on some calls where I wish I could forget, and you've been on some calls where it was like, this is why I do this job.
Yeah.
And you're right. We can only do so much in the back of the ambulance. I mean, it's basically a little mini emergency department, and you do what you can do with the time that you have. And because I worked both, I worked at Delhi Fire and at NISA, which is in Williamston Fire Department, which is also a full-time combination department,
which is in
and that's
Michigan,
EMS, which is a whole new ball game.
Well,
we got rural EMS and then city EMS, where you're only like 2 minutes from the hospital as opposed to like 20.
We were owned by the 5 funeral homes, and so unfortunately, if we weren't successful, we might see the person one more time. But it was a very, very rewarding thing, and I loved it, and I made a mistake by not going that route in my life as opposed to what I did do. But I do appreciate your service, and as what we do here, and we're very close to our veterans and very close to the military, and we always include first responders, because the one thing that I can't address Michigan, but there were times that there were areas of the city that I was in that some folks literally thought we carried drugs, which we didn't carry. We barely carried water, much less drugs. And you didn't know what you were driving into a lot of times. And so first responders,
that is very true. Dispatch information can always be completely different than what you're walking into, because they can only get so much information on that phone call before somebody hangs up. So, yeah, I think we've had lots of surprises.
That's it.
So to go back to just being a woman and being in such a male-dominated field, I mean, obviously, like this, you had gone through this when I was, this must have been early high school. This seems like forever ago. But just just your struggles and what you heard just from males. Obviously, you're not much taller than me. You're 5'3", and I mean, built just like me, everybody. So for those looking on YouTube right now, you can see us live from the website, and we are live on Facebook as well. So tune in if you want to see. But going back to that, so did you ever hear any sort of comments, whether that was from males or females, just the fact that you couldn't do it?
Oh, there was. Well, if I instill anything in my children, it's that determination, that sense of motivation and determination.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me I can't do something, and I'll prove you wrong. So I heard a lot of negativity. The first thing is, people are like, well, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm 35. And they go, well, don't you think you're a little old to be starting a new career? And I was like, all right, well, that every piece of negative comment that I received, I took it, and I buried it. And that was when we were doing stairs or PT, because Fire Academy through Lansing Community College is very military-based. We've got physical training first thing in the morning, and it was brutal. I would come home and, after doing PT, then we have class, and then some days we would do the practical ground or the fire ground, and I would literally collapse. But here's the thing. All of those 20-somethings that I was in class with, they went home and collapsed too. So it was just a matter of channeling that negativity. I mean, I could have let that bring me down. I could have, taken it and said, hey, I can't do this. Maybe they're right. No, I was raised by, I had two older brothers and a dad and a mom that, especially my mom, she was just, don't ever give up, don't ever quit, the word can't should never come out of your mouth. I mean, that's just how I was raised. So you have to have thick skin. I mean, you can't be a delicate flower working in this line of work. There's just no way. You will not survive, because there's a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of, comments that could be made. There's not necessarily saying at my department, because my department these guys were in my wedding, and, we're family. We're a small department. So we tend to take care of each other. Mm-hmm. But, you hear stories from other, larger departments and stuff where, comments are being made, and, it's kind of you got to take what they say, and you've got two things. You can either be one of the guys and give it right back, or you can run to HR and say, so-and-so said this to me. You got to learn how to deal with it. You not necessarily deal with it. You got to learn how to, take what they're saying, channel it, and then give it right back to them and prove them wrong.
Absolutely. So, you didn't not only have your gender against you, you also had age and being, late 30s, early 40s, completely changing your career because, as you said, you started off in OBGYN, working for, I should say, an OBGYN, and then went on to nursing. And it wasn't until you blew out your whole knee that you had thought, you know what, I don't want to be a nurse. I want to be a firefighter. I want the adrenaline rush. So to females that are, at any age, could be they're fresh out of high school, they could be in college or 30, 40 years old, what advice would you give them going into something like this?
Going into my career, my line of career would be never give up. If you are truly passionate and this is what you want to do, don't ever give up. Just, as you know, Tay, growing up, it's always keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. And I did fire and EMT and went through paramedic as a single mom. And then by the time that came along, you girls were in college. So it was just keep moving forward. I'm not saying I wasn't knocked down. I wasn't saying that I had bad days. I'm not saying that I didn't have bad calls, but you just keep moving forward. I can't stress that enough. It's take the negativity that's given to you and just rechannel that and just make that your drive. Mm-hmm. That determination. Just you set your sights on that prize of what you want to be, and you just don't let anything stand in your way. You just go after it. Mm-hmm.
So as far as some of these stories with these calls, do you feel like you had, I guess, tell us about a time when you were on a call where you felt, hey, being a woman, I have a total advantage on this. And then on the flip side, I'd love to hear one of your stories about, hey, I was at a huge disadvantage being a woman. I'd love for everyone to hear more about those two stories.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so the advantages of being a woman. As you know, most of the crews that I work with here at Delhi, they're guys. I was the only female on the department for a really long time. And every time we would get that call where it was a female and they're having abdominal pain, they're like, hey, this one's yours. You can have this one. So it was a matter of, hey, I did have my advantages. Sometimes, when you have small children, I have 3 kids of my own, as you know, and I've got that motherly instinct. Like, I just want to baby all the kids, all of the babies. I just want to, like, take them and just say, hey, look, everything's going to be okay. And sometimes the tone of voice, you know, you have that advantage of being a woman. You can relate to another woman. You can relate, you know, being a mom to a child that is sick and not feeling good, and the parents are like, hey, we don't know what to do. I can use that female, that feminine side, and just say, you know, it's okay. I've got him. I promise he's going to be okay in transport. The disadvantage, well, we'll just take the fire ground, for example. As you know, I'm like 5'3" with my boots on, and I've got about 75 pounds a year, and I can't always reach. So I kind of have to jump to reach certain things, which they make fun of me. They laugh at me. They joke about it. They're like, hey, we're going to get you a little pink stool so you can reach all the equipment on the trucks. And I was like, nope. You learn to adapt and overcome.
Of course, it's a pink stool of all things.
So, and one of the things, being a female and being my size, you know, I'm not that tall. And the engine, when I was engineering the engine or driving the engine, the seat wouldn't move up far enough for me to reach the pedals. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to, you know, I can't drive this. And then I was like, I look over, and of course the words I can't came out of my mouth, and I just wanted to, like, eat them. Mm-hmm. And I saw mat books, and I was like, oh, I can do mat books. I threw the mat books behind my back to push me forward. You know, you just adapt and overcome.
Yeah. Well, we are actually going to go to a quick break, but everybody stay tuned to hear more about Rebecca Elliott and her story as a woman in fire EMS. This is Taylor with Women's Wednesdays on America's Web Radio.
If your health insurance premium is more than your mortgage, Ellen Deal with Ideal Solutions is here to help. Whether you're a small business owner, individual, family, or baby boomer, email maga45cag@gmail.com, and I'll respond with 3 easy questions to help you determine if you can get away from Obamacare. As a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry, I'm here to help with all your insurance needs. Email Ellen Deal at maga45cag@gmail.com.
Want to give your family or loved one the perfect gift? Then go online and check out the TornadoBodyDryer.com. I love mine and the warm heat air massage it gives me after my shower. The Tornado Body Dryer is super. You'll love it, and you'll love having one in your shower.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Good morning and welcome back to Women's Wednesdays on America's Web Radio, and your host is Taylor Bird. And Taylor also is too modest probably to say this, but I don't have a problem with saying it. If you've got a question about America's Web Radio, or you think you might be able to do a show, or you think you would like your opinion expressed, contact Taylor. And or if you'd just like to advertise on America's Web Radio, we'd be glad to hear from you. Call Taylor at America's Web Radio anytime, or drop her an email, and you all can start talking, have a conversation, as they say. So now back to Taylor.
Awesome. Thanks, David. So we before the break, we were touching on the advantages and the disadvantages of women in the fire EMS workplace. So Rebecca Elliott, we have on with us, who I have the pleasure of calling my mother, is on with us right now. So, Mom, Becky, I guess I should say. It feels weird calling you by your first name. Mom, why don't you continue before we had gone on that break more about those disadvantages, because you had mentioned having this womanly instinct and being nurturing, and sometimes it's just the sound of a woman's voice that can give you a huge advantage, or whether that's lower abdominal pain when it comes to females. A guy just throws up his hands and says, you got it. So Couple advantages there to just rehash that, but go into more of those disadvantages.
Disadvantages, again, my size. It's a lot of adapting and overcoming when it comes to the use of the equipment, because the equipment is big and bulky. Like, everybody knows the jaws of life, and we use those, to get people out of cars. We use them to breach doors. It's a multi-purpose tool, but it is a very big and bulky tool. Well, guys carry their strength in their upper body. They're strong, they work out, and I'm not saying I'm not strong and I don't work out, but women carry a lot of their strength in their legs and their hips. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of I may have to hold the tool differently. It's not saying I can't do the job. I can do the job. Tell me I can't, and I'll show you that I will, and I can. It's just a matter of I have to hold it differently, or I've got to use, like, part of my leg or leverage or whatever. I think that's the biggest thing in getting stuff done. Like I said, every time I have to close a door on the side of the truck, it's like I got to jump and reach the handle and pull it down, and the comments are made. But other than that, a lot of disadvantages because we are a small department and we are family. If I get, there's a couple times where I had a very combative patient, and we're on scene, and the guys will be like, "Hey, back, I'll take this one," and I was like, "No, I got it. If I need your help, I'll let you know, but I've got it." And they're like, "No, I don't feel comfortable with you taking," because you take a lot of derogatory remarks, very sexist, chauvinistic remarks from people. I always say dealing with somebody under the influence is like, smelling the color 12, which there's no reasoning with them. So there's a huge disadvantage being my size and being female, because they think that they can take advantage. They think that they have the right or the audacity to grope at you, to grab at you, and I've had to stand my ground. I've had to put people back in their place politely. I've have the honor to work with Ingham County Sheriff's Department. They're on scene a lot of times when we were working with combative patients, and I always have one of those guys, that, some of them have them on speed dial on my phone, and, in case anything happens, they're like, "Hey, Beck, do you want me to ride with you to the hospital, just to make sure?" And I'm like, yeah, I think you should. And then there's other times where I'm like, "No, I think I got it. I know how to handle them." And, and plus I've got the guys in front. So, because we're family, and, these are my brothers, these are my guys, so they kind of they're protective. And so, from the chief all the way down to, to paid on call people, paid on call and part-time, being a female, they tend to take care of us. They want to make sure that we're going to be okay. And at the same time, they don't baby us. They don't coddle us and say, "Let me do this for you," kind of a thing. When it comes to a task, it's like, "Hey, do you want me?" They ask, "Hey, do you want me to take this?" Or, "Do you feel comfortable with this?" They always make sure that you're comfortable with what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I think that's...
Do you all do...
I think that kind of answers your question.
Do you all do much... do you do any of the transport from, nursing to hospital or that kind of...
You're cutting out. Let me move to a different room. Hold on. We've got some pretty thick walls here.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Do you all do a lot of the transport? Like from nursing?
That's a special task force that does that. But we are our department is part of Metro, which is a combination of 5 departments. So you've got Lansing Fire, Lansing Township Fire, East Lansing, Delta, and Delhi. So the 5 of us make up Metro area, and from each department we've got specialties. So like high-rise or anything like that, we've got East Lansing, but not saying that there aren't guys trained or other, I'm not saying guys. I refer to males and females as guys. that they've got other people trained from other departments that can help in with that. So that's kind of a specialty thing. It's a confined space. But we do have people that are trained specifically for that. If you're not trained, you don't go in.
I think that was probably the worst thing. The good side was delivering babies. The bad side was doing transport on comatose, and they're in a coma, but they still feel and will yell and scream and everything else. And I got tickled when you were talking about someone under the influence. We picked up a guy that was drunker than a skunk, had a wreck, and every time the driver would hit the siren, he would go bananas. And it got to the point that we did exactly what you said. We had a cop following us, and we stopped in the middle of the road. The cop jumped in and took care of him. And but he was going crazy. And
there's being a paramedic, we've got, we can always call the hospital and get an order and say, hey, this person is completely combative. We can't control them. Can you give us an order? And we carry some drugs on our ambulances, to help with that. It's like, all right, you're going on that K train ride. Enjoy. Which is ketamine that we use. Which I've had to do that a couple times working rural EMS because we were so far from the hospital. We had a gentleman that tried to kick a back window out of a van being transported from one jail to another, and decided once he was in our area to kick out a back window and jump out of a moving van on the highway. And it took several officers to contain him, and I think I had probably 5 or 6 officers in the back of my ambulance. While my partner and I are trying to sedate him just to get him under control, because people that are in that frame of mind, that state of mind, they are strong. You think a little lady, 98 pounds soaking wet, you're like, oh my goodness, I've got this. No, they have the strength of an ox. It is amazing the strength that they have, and they always have super long nails that like to dig in your arms because they claw you. Because it's one of those things. So you can't always use medication on them because they're so tiny and their metabolism, they metabolize medications differently. So you just kind of sit on them for a little bit. But the big ones, the ones that I always say, dealing with them is like smelling the color 12. So. Those are the ones that we usually medicate.
What is your fondest memory?
My fondest memory, I would have to say I had a lot of experience working in rural EMS, and I loved it because you actually have time to be a paramedic. You have time to use your skills. You have time to use all this training that you've worked so hard to get to. And I would have to say it was probably the child that ran, we call febrile seizures. It's basically when a child's body temperature raises drastically in a very short time. So it goes from normal to 105 in, half hour, causes seizures. So the mom was just so thankful. We get there, the baby's he's not a baby, but he's a baby to me. He's probably about 1.5 years, 2 years old. And he was actively seizing when we got there, and the parents' faces, oh my goodness, they ripped my heart out, because they're looking at their child, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. This has never happened before, save my baby kind of a thing. And I would have to say, once we got the medication on board, the seizure stopped, the baby comes around, and the parents were just that sense of relief on their face was just amazing. It was like, hey, I did something good today. So that was probably my fondest memory. We ran on him a couple times after that. This poor child was diagnosed with RSV, which is like a breathing viral that attacks the respiratory system in children, which we're now finding in adults. Go figure. Things that normally children get are now being passed to adults. Adults are getting RSV and epiglottitis, things that children would normally get. Mm-hmm. But we ran on him a couple times after that. for being sick and breathing problems, and the parents were always like, "Oh my gosh, I remember you. You're the one that saved my child." And it was like, oh,
That's
it was
amazing.
One of those things that just stick with you.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to take a quick break, but we will be right back. I'm Taylor, and this is Women's Wednesday on America's Web Radio.
Perhaps you are struggling to cope with the disease of addiction. If not, you probably know a family member or friend that needs help in battling the cravings and the personal and professional damage done by the effects of drugs or alcohol. Get a pen and paper and be ready to write down the following. These are the issues that the trained staff at the Atlanta Healing Center address and treat every day. Their doctors and counselors with over 40 years of practice in the field of addiction can treat the suffering individual in a thoughtful, compassionate, and experienced manner and guide him or her along the path to recovery. So call 770-696-9862 and speak to a knowledgeable staff member about how you or your loved one can be helped to enjoy a better and healthier life. More information is also available on the website at www.atlantahealingcenter.com.
This is Ron Camacho, host of the Business Hour, on Fridays from 10 to 11 a.m. Join me as I talk with passionate professionals on a program that profiles the best businesses, business practices, and fascinating business professionals to get an insider view of how America works.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
All right, everybody, we are back. This is Taylor, and we are hosting Women's Wednesday, all things ladies. So we have Rebecca Elliott here with us talking about her experience in fire and EMS. So before the break, we were talking about some of your fondest memories. Did you have any other particular ones that may have stood out, whether that was with children, maybe with somebody that is a little bit older? Because I do recall you having a specific call, Mom, where this lady was having chest pains. You had gone over there, and she ended up being perfectly fine, and she just kept apologizing over and over and over again how sorry she was for calling you in, and she had some records playing on a record. So do you want to share more about that story? Because I know that story, but not everybody else does.
Oh my goodness. Again, this was my rural EMS days. Actually, we ran on her before for chest pain, and her late husband, bless his heart, he was such a sweetheart, passed away shortly before this call. But we had a medical alarm go off because she wore a medical alarm. She was an elderly lady. She lived alone. She was, her children were afraid that something would happen to her and she wouldn't be able to call. So
Right.
She was actually doing some cleaning that day, and she accidentally pushed her medical alarm while she bent over. And of course we show up there and we are knocking on the doors, and we're not seeing anything, and next thing you know, we're in this big picture window, because we're out in the country, and she sees us and about has a heart attack, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys gave me chest pain, why are you here?" And I was like, "Well, we had a medical alarm call, we just wanted to make sure that you were okay." And she was like, "Oh, bless your hearts, come in." And she talked to us. I made sure she was okay, and we talked about her husband and how she missed him, and I apologized again. I'm like, "I'm sorry, we did everything we could." It's just one of those things that you just do what you can, and that was a hard part. That was a hard pill to swallow. And so, and then I noticed that she had Frank Sinatra playing on the radio.
That's
and
my
I
guy.
was like, "Oh my goodness, you have Frank Sinatra playing." I said, "I love Old Blue, his baby blue eyes." And she goes, "Oh, don't you love him?" She goes, "I have all these records. I have Elvis and all these things." I said, "Yeah, I grew up on those." I said, "My dad had a record player, and we used to, I used to stand on his feet, and we'd dance in the living room and to Bobby V and Elvis Presley, and I can't even remember, the names are leaving my mind right now, but all of these old, Frank Sinatra, Fred Astaire,
Dean Martin,
Rat Pack." And so she would, later, so we made sure she was okay, and we were listening to music. I was going through her records and going, oh my gosh, these are just amazing records. Some of them were signed by the artist, which were pretty awesome. And anyways, we clear and we get back to the station, and our secretary comes in. She goes, hey, I've got this phone call. She wants to know if you would take her record player because her children, she was actually cleaning when you went over there because her children says that she needed to clear stuff out because they wanted to move her closer to them. And you loved her record player so much that, she wanted to know if you would take it for everything that you've done for her. And I was like, oh my goodness, we're not allowed to take gifts, but if she wants to give it to, I'll definitely, I'd be honored to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So she, they're like, well, here's her number. And so I called her and I said, I understand that you are cleaning house out, cleaning house. And she says, yeah. She goes, I should have said something while you were here, but you just loved the music and the sparkle in your eye when you were listening to it. She goes, you would appreciate this as much as I would. And my children don't want it, and I really want you to have it. And I was like, you know what, I'd be honored. I'll take it. And of course, we're not supposed to receive gifts for anything, but she wanted me to have this so bad. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. So all of her records sit in my cabinet, and her record player sits in my living room. So it was pretty cool.
And I cannot wait to go home and enjoy it because I will be flying in back to Michigan from Georgia on Friday. I cannot wait, other than the fact that it is going to be brutally cold. I mean, 50 in Georgia feels cold to me now. So for those of you that don't know, I'm originally from the Lansing area of Michigan and have been down in the Atlanta area of Georgia for about 2 years now. So for anybody that's looking for warmer weather like I was, Atlanta's a great place.
Becky, did you all, or do you all use the 10 code?
Use the 10 codes like 10-4 or anything like that?
Yeah, 10-8, 10-19.
Well, law enforcement still does. But we usually are just, hey, we're clear on that. We're big on repeating the information that's given to us. So if dispatch says, if there's a change in information, we're instructed to repeat that information back to make sure, yes, we received it, and they're clear that we got it. So not a whole lot. Sometimes you hear a little 10-4, like, hey, I'm clear, or whatever, 10-4. But not a lot. That's mostly law enforcement that uses the 10 codes. But as far as the fire side, it's a lot of it's plain language. Yeah.
Again, many years ago, we did use the 10 code and had to memorize, and like 10-8, 10-19, we're back in service. And it was always interesting, and we didn't do a whole lot of unit-to-base conversation. And generally speaking, we kept it within the 10 code as much as we could, unless there was some type of thing that. And we didn't have communications with the hospital directly either. We just strictly had it with our base. And if there was a need, the base would call the hospital, and we'd go sort of patch through and do the best we could until we got there. But anyway, I'll let you back with Taylor.
So we had talked about some of your fondest memories, and obviously everybody does have those few that really pulled on the heartstrings. And again, I know those stories, but I know that there are a handful that you've shared very vague details, and they really got me. So can you share some of those stories and really talk about how you've overcome those as far as like counseling that is offered through fire and EMS?
Like I said, I hope I can talk about these without getting choked up, but there's some calls that you just, you wish you could unsee. You guys know that if I call you and say, or send you a text and say, I love you, slow down, wear your seatbelt, that kind of thing. I've been on a really bad PI involving 3 children that resembled you guys, and that's a call that will probably stay with me forever. But there is, working, for our Department of Family, and we have what's called the CAPS program, the Capital Area Peer Support Group, or Back in the Badge, where, you can talk to somebody. We've got people that are trained here in our department. It was actually one of those calls where, or one of those days where I was working 2 jobs. I was working, as you know, I was working at NISA, and I, very rarely did just a 24-hour shift. It was always like a 24 into a 36 into, a 48-hour shift.
Right, with very little sleep.
I only worked at 24 because I had a really bad call. That's the calls that, I talked to you guys about. But then I had to come to Delhi. So I went home, I showered, I had coffee, and I'm like, all right, I need to get my stuff together here and get my coffee and head over to Delhi. So came into Delhi, and these guys knew about it, and I didn't know they knew about it, but they did, because some of them worked that shift the day before as well, just covering other people's shifts. And the first thing my captain did was, hey, come in and talk to me. How you doing? Just that support that you have, at Delhi, we've had some pretty tragedies, tragic things happen here, especially when it involves children. I mean, that's something that's it's just not normal. And you don't like to think about it, but it's just one of those things that you just, kind of throw in the back of your mind and kind of suppress it. And then when you're alone, you let it all out, and or you call one of your friends or your kids, and like you, because I know I talk to you a lot, and say, hey, I had this really bad call, and I just wanted to talk to you and make sure you're okay, because as a mom, when you're 2 babies, especially your girls that you doted on their entire lives, move 5 states away. You've got you in Atlanta, and then Allison in Dallas, and it's hard. You just want to, the first thing you want to do after a bad call, whether it involves children or not, you just want to, go home and hug your family and just know that they're there. And that's kind of hard to do when your kids live 5 states away, so...
Okay, you need to get it together, because you're going to make me cry, and this is my very first radio show, and I am not trying to cry on the air right now, Mother. And speaking of, the texts and the calls, I mean, we always know, you put Allie, Ethan, and I in a group chat, and you say, always wear your seatbelt, or never text and drive, and we kind of already know what kind of call you had, and I frankly do not know how you can go through every day seeing what you've seen and just handling that mentally, because I for sure, you did not pass that medical gene on to me. You did pass the gift of gab, which is why I'm in radio now, which is great, but I don't know how the men and the women do what you do day to day and see the things that you guys see. But we are actually going to cut to a break here. So everybody stick with us. This is Taylor, and this is Women's Wednesday.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients, dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down docs4patientcarefoundation.org. That's DOCS, the number 4, patientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
Want to give your family or loved one the perfect gift? Then go online and check out the TornadoBodyDryer.com. I love mine and the warm heat air massage it gives me after my shower. The Tornado Body Dryer is super. You'll love it, and you'll love having one in your shower.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mike Karuchak. Have you ever wondered what doctors talk about amongst themselves? If you do, join us on the Doctor's Lounge and hear the doctors' conversations amongst themselves. Join me and my co-host, Dr. Hal Schertz, every Thursday morning, 8 to 9 a.m.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. This is Taylor with Women's Wednesday on America's Web Radio. So we are here again with Rebecca Elliott talking about her experience being a woman in fire EMS. So now talking more about just being a mom, obviously that goes along with being a female. And I'd love to hear, and obviously I know by being your daughter, but I'm sure everyone would like to hear a little bit more about being a mom and having a family and the strain or the struggles or the successes that come from being in the field that you're in. So would you mind kind of sharing some more about that, and as far as like relationships as well, dating? What is dating like? Obviously, you know, divorce and everything, single mom going through fire academy, working 2 jobs, raising 3 kids, and going through a divorce. So it's safe to say you are my hero and have been for many years, which also made it, I had no excuse to not get good grades in school, but that's besides the point. So back to the show as far as dating, family, being a woman, fire EMS. Tell us more about that.
It's all about balance. I worked a lot. I worked more than what I wanted to. Being a single mom, I didn't, have the funds. Working fire EMS, we don't do this for the money. There's not a whole lot of money in it. We do it because we love the job. We have a passion, and we want to do something. I wanted to help people. That's why I worked in the ER at McLaren in Lansing for 6 years. Because I couldn't, I needed that extra money, but at the same time, it was, something that could build on my career and make me a better paramedic. So that part, as far as, trying to balance family and dating was a joke. We'll just put that out there. Dating was horrible. I'm sure that everybody can agree that after a divorce, then you start dating and you think, hey, this is cool. No, it's not. Not. My advice to people that are newly divorced is give yourself a year. Give yourself a year to find out really who you are. Being married, my 17-year starter marriage, and then being going from that to a single mom, that was a huge, huge struggle, because I did have the support of Grandma and Grandpa, my parents. I couldn't have done this without them by any means, because, as you know, Grandma stepped in when I couldn't be there. And,
right.
I don't know what I would have done without them. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for them, because when I had, school, when I was working 2 jobs and then I was going to school, and paramedic school, everybody knows, is a full-time job in itself. You've got, not only do you have your classwork, you've got homework, but you've got clinicals and rotations, and you have to spend so much time in the OR because you have to learn how to intubate with the anesthesiologist, and you have to have 5, you have to sync, we call it syncing, you have to sync 5 tubes before you can, continue on. I mean, it was stressful. It was so stressful. There were times where, actually, when I got done with paramedic school, Grandma handed me, so I had these calendars, and it was 2 years, it was 22 months of class where I worked 2 jobs, 2 pretty much full-time jobs, because if I wasn't at the ER, I was at Delhi, and I was going to school full-time, and I was already divorced, but in dating, Jesus, forget dating. She handed me, after I got done, and I took my national registry for my paramedic exam, and I passed it one and done, which I thought I failed it, because don't ever take paramedic exam or your national registry on a Friday evening, everyone. Please do it on a Monday, because then you'll know by the next day. I had to wait till Monday, which was horrifying. There's not enough wine on the face of this earth to get me through that weekend. Anyway, so I thought I failed it, and because it kicked me out. I didn't even get to like question 70. I think it was still in the 60s or something, and I was sitting in a chair for like not even an hour, and it kicked me out, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I failed it. Well, I passed it one and done. And Grandma and Grandpa were so excited. They're like, oh my gosh, you've come so far. Look, you've got your fire, your EMT, and now you're paramedic. Look at you, you're a single mom, you're rocking this. And in my mind, I was thinking, I'm rocking this? Really? Because I feel like I'm falling apart, because I just want to climb into a closet, cover up with a blanket, suck my thumb, and cry, because it was very treacherous. And so Grandma hands me this stack of like papers, and I'm like, what is she doing? And she goes, hey, I just wanted to give these back to you and show you what you've done. And I was like, what is this? She goes, so I had everything. So like when I worked at McLaren ER, I would print out my calendar, my schedule from that, and then I would add everything else to that calendar, so everything was on one. Because Grandma and Grandpa filled in so much, you know, she had a day-to-day, like, okay, I need you for the kids between this time and this time because I have a clinical, or I have a ride-along, or I have to work. And she gave them back to me, and she goes, here you go. And I looked at it, and I just started bawling. I was like, oh, my God, I can't believe I did this. Oh, my gosh, how did I do this? How did I do it? I did it because I had three amazing kids that if I taught them anything, it was keep pushing forward, keep moving forward, keep going, no matter what, just keep going. And I had two amazing parents that, you know, were there, and they're like, hey, we've got you. Mm-hmm. And when you know that you've got, you know, parents that have your back, kids that are doing well, and they're doing what they need to do, and it's like, yes, you missed the crap out of them, because I missed out on a lot with you guys, and that's something I can never get back. But I can enjoy everything now, so.
Yeah, and...
Oh, I know. My secretary is listening, and on the radio, and she was like, you're making me cry, and I'm like, oh my God.
I didn't even know about the calendar thing, but I mean, that's a way for you to have an absolute visual of everything that you went through. So just before we start to wrap up the show, because we're coming to the hour, for any girls that are looking to do this, I mean, you said to just keep pushing forward. Don't let the comments get in the way. Like, don't just, you know, punch that glass ceiling. Absolutely shatter it, annihilate it, blow it up, and really just keep going. Don't ever stop. Don't let the momentum slow you down, or just keep the momentum going. So as far as like the statistics go, this is a male-dominated field. So within your department, other than your secretary that you had just mentioned, because you said she is bawling, are there any other females there? Because you had mentioned guys, and you referred to your guys and your gals as just guys. So are you the only woman on the department right now?
Actually, because as you know, I got promoted. I'm now the emergency manager, recruitment and retention coordinator for my township, and so I'm at a desk job now. So the Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, weekends, holidays off, is so weird to me still. I've been in this position for just a year. And I'm used to working, 96 to 110 hours every single week for the last 10 years, and going from that to this. So part of my job is recruitment and retention. And one of the things I wanted to do was bring some balance. We needed balance here. So I'm not the only female on the department anymore. I did hire some other females on the department to bring some of that balance, and we've got some Spitfires. I'm really happy and pleased with what we have on our department. We've got a pretty strong department right now. I'd like to get some more women, but as you know, and it's a nationwide thing. It's not just a Delhi thing or a City of Lansing thing or a Pennsylvania, state of Pennsylvania. It's a nationwide thing. There is a shortage. Nobody wants to be a firefighter, paramedic anymore. And it shows because our combination departments are diminishing. So I would like to bring on some more. If there's any, women that are looking to do this, definitely jump in. jump in with both feet because there's such a shortage. And I'm sure, Atlanta's the same way. There's a shortage of firefighter paramedics out there. And if you're looking for that adrenaline and you're crazy like the rest of us here that work here in our department, do it. Don't let it stand in your way. Just do it.
So if there's somebody that is, on edge about not sure if they want to really go into this, is volunteering an option? I mean, is that something that people could do to kind of test out the waters and see, hey, maybe this is for me?
I highly suggest, so we do fire and EMS here, and there are some people that are like, yeah, I just like the fire thing, but I can't do the EMS, I can't do the blood, I can't do the gore, but I can do the fire thing, But they don't understand that the fire thing also includes, like, we call them PIs, or car accidents.
Right.
Okay, well, you're going to see gore. You're going to see that. Not as much, but you're going to still see it. My suggestion to people is to go talk to your local fire department. Go take a walk. Talk to the people there. Get their standpoint, because every department's different. There are some areas where they do a lot of fire. Other areas, other departments, they do a lot of PIs, or this department runs a lot of medical. So you talk to them. Talk to people that are in the field. Talk to people that are, at your local department, like, hey, as you know, Tay, like, from the day we moved here, like, I wanted to be at this department. That was my goal. My chief at the time was like, well, go and do fire and EMS and come back and talk to me. And he honestly thought he'd never see me again. He saw this mom with children and, never thought. So I was like, all right. So I go and I do my fire, I do my EMT, and I come back and I'm like, okay, here I am. What's next? Just go talk to them. There are some private EMS that will allow you to do ride-alongs, or maybe your fire department, township, or city will allow you to do ride-alongs, and just try it out. See if that's for you.
Yeah, and that's, I feel like, a great way. That's not, just reading about something. Like, that's firsthand, because I feel like fire and EMS, that's not something that you can read about. That's something that you have to experience with all five senses. And it's not easy, and it's not for everyone. But obviously, with there being a shortage, we're welcoming the women. And if Rebecca Elliott at 5'3", I won't tell your weight, but you're not much more than me. If she can do it after a divorce and 3 kids, anybody can do it. It's possible. It is 110% possible to do a career change, to really go in and feel like you're making a difference. And yeah, the money's not there, but I mean, you raised me, like, just happiness comes first, and you've really showed me that if you really want something, you can do it, and as long as you work hard, you've got it. And for any of the women that are listening today, just want to say thank you, because this is my very first show, and would like to obviously get more women on here. So this is Women's Wednesdays, ladies. All things women, whether you want to come on here and talk about health or women in the workplace or whatever it may be, please email me. I am always checking my email. So that's Taylor, Taylor, at americaswebradio.com. So feel free to send me any ideas if you want to come on the show. Great. But we do have a show coming up. Stay tuned. We're going to talk to Janet Fan about her relationship and her being a single mom. But thank you so much, Rebecca, Mom, for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
I'm always here to support you.
Awesome.
Sure.
Well, thank you. Great. Well, everybody stay tuned. Again, this is Taylor at America's Web Radio, and this is Women's Wednesday.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.